Episode 4 has a really interesting dynamic to me because it's the episode where it's increasingly hard to separate failure from success for all of the characters. It opens with Mildred's business expanding dramatically, but those are also the seeds of her failure. And similarly, it's the first moment where Vida fails.
I feel like it's a pace and the temperature of 4 is quite different from the other episodes. It seems quieter and more contained, but most of all, it takes us closer to traditional domestic drama in that the mother is sort of disempowered, even though, as you say, Mildred's at the height of her franchise. And finally, there's no real man in the way of her life with Vida. So you start with the scene, and Kate Winslet and I joked about it. Mildred comes home after you see all the restaurants starting and growing, and Vida's pounding away at the piano, and she's grown up into gorgeous, luminous Evan Rachel Wood. Yeah. And Mildred goes into the bedroom and sits down happily in pure contentment for all of 20 seconds. And then gets up and starts washing her hands and goes into the bathroom. She doesn't even really know how to enjoy the thing that she's been trying so hard to achieve. And as you say, as soon as it seems perfect, the rug is sort of pulled out from under them. And Vida resorts to maybe the first age-appropriate depression that we've seen her engage in thus far, where she loses her sense of self.
You start off a wunderkind and you end up just a goddamn punk.
There's a fascinating way for me in this episode that Vida seems the completion of Mildred's life in a lot of ways. But she's also a kind of parody of it at the same time. And that might only be to say that she's better at the same things that Mildred was kind of good at, like getting men to do what she wants them to do. But I wonder how you saw the kind of parallels that Vida clearly sees.
For the daughter, it's all about separation, becoming an autonomous being. For the mother, it's about sucking that thing right back in and dissolving the subject-object relationship where identity and language disappear completely. So for Mildred, her investment is in seeing the similarities and the way she can even be the prideful other me who can maintain all of that pride and never have to stoop and never have to lower herself to get where she needs to go. I'll do that for her. It's sort of preserving the best side of herself.
So this is also the episode where Mrs. Forrester returns, saying many of the same things that she said in the first time, making Mildred feel really bad about class and status.
Kate and I talked about that scene and always felt that the thing she can barely get past is how much she doesn't know about what's going on with Vida. And this woman who resonates in this extremely disturbing and minimizing way with all of this knowledge about Vida and all of this intimacy and all of this history that Mildred's hearing about for the first time. I think she sees that there's something wrong about Vida's dalliances in this world, but at the same time, even just to hear that the daughter is trying out for movies and might enter the world of show business, she's just so enamored of this child that she'll sort of take any variable.
And not only has Mrs. Forrester returned, but also Wally has now returned in the guise of Vida's attorney, and that's something that Mildred is clueless about.
It's so funny that we think of this as the classic mother-daughter story, Mildred Pierce, James M. Cain's novel. And for him, in writing it, it was all motivated from an idea of a woman who makes use of men.
And I think at the moment that he wrote this, he was actually involved with a single mother named Kate Cummings, I think her name was, who had 2 children. And he said that she gave him lots of advice about how to structure and shape the novel.
It's not surprising. I mean, not to take anything away from him, but it is such an intuitive, resilient, piece of writing about mothers and daughters. And so you think there must have been some help along the way.
And I think that the way that the episodes have been constructed is that the beginnings and endings are often Mildred or Vida and Mildred. And I think part of the magnificence of the scene with the radio is that it's a way of having them both be present simultaneously. Mildred is there in close-up, I think, for one of the few times in the film so far.
We go that close.
But it's somebody else's voice that you're hearing. It's Vida's voice that you're hearing at that moment.
This moment where she doesn't know what to expect and thinks it's going to be some torch singer on the radio, according to Bert. And then it's truly transcendent and exquisite. In the end of 4, Mildred is not just separated from Vida, but hearing her through the radio conducts a kind of level of emotional affect that we probably haven't seen till that point.